Yokoso owashitare. Welcome to part 2 of our story about Japan's most famous wizard, Abe no Seimei. And because this is part 2, there is no once upon a time, ima wa mukashi, and there is also going to be no thus is it said, because this is in the middle of the actual story. We're just gonna get straight into it. So, Abe no Seimei, Japan's most famous ancient sorcerer. He was a disciple of another Japanese sorcerer, wizard, magician named Tadayuki. If you want to know more about him, please watch the previous video, it explains it there. But, as all things happen, Tadayuki became old and eventually passed away. And after his master had passed, Abe no Seimei continued his work as an Onmyoji in service to private citizens and to the public, the emperor, and government officials. But one day, this Abe no Seimei was hanging out at home, doing whatever it is ancient Japanese wizard, sorcerer, Onmyojis do, when suddenly he was alerted that a visitor had showed up, and wondering who could be visiting him at this hour, he wasn't expecting anybody. He went out to go see an aged Buddhist priest standing before him. And flanking this Buddhist priest on either side were two young page boys, maybe around 10 years or so of age. And again, Abe no Seimei was not expecting any visitors today. And so naturally he asks, "Good Sir Monk, from whence come you?" I don't know exactly the best way to translate what he says, but he does say, "Izuko yori kitareru zo," which is, "From whence do you come, where do you come from?" Which is basically him asking, "What's up? Why are you here?" And in a more broader sense, "How can I help you?" And this Buddhist priest answered, "Well, my good sir, I am but a humble Buddhist priest from the province of Harima, and I grew a deep fascination for the arcane arts of Onmyo, and I would love nothing more than to be trained by a professional in the way. And hearing that you, good sir, are in fact one of the best in the realm, I thought to myself, man, it would be wonderful if I could be a disciple of the famed Abe no Seimei. Thus have I come to you this day." And the whole time this Buddhist priest had a very proper, very deferential manner. He was very clearly trying to make a good impression. That being said, Abe no Seimei felt something was a little off about this priest. Now, it wasn't anything scary, wasn't anything dangerous, but maybe it was just the slight subtleties in which the priest spoke, maybe it was the way he carried himself, maybe it was Abe no Seimei getting some sort of spiritual vibes, some sort of weird magical premonitions. Something was not quite right here. And he came to the conclusion that this Buddhist priest was actually not a complete novice at Onmyo, at these arcane arts, but rather that he was actually quite skilled at it. Something about him, again, maybe it was magical vibes, I don't know. But Seimei believed that this priest had come specifically to try to test him, to try to see the extent of his power, and pretending to be interested in learning Onmyo from Abe no Seimei, this priest was attempting to get Abe no Seimei to do something fantastic. He was trying to trick him. However, Abe no Seimei was not about to be tricked. And again, he didn't feel like this priest had any particularly bad intentions, but if this priest wanted to see the extent of his abilities, well, he certainly wasn't going to disappoint him. No sir, it would be quite a shame to appear badly in front of this man. But he was also going to string him along a little bit. Teach this priest where he actually stands in the grand scheme of Onmyo. One thing in particular that caught Abe no Seimei's eye was the fact that this priest had two page boys with him. But again, maybe it was something in their demeanor, maybe it was something about the way they stood, or maybe there was just some sort of magical aura about them. But Abe no Seimei was almost certain that these were not actual human beings. These were in fact shikijin, is what they say in the original text. Some people may know them as shikigami. Now what is a shikigami, you may ask? Well, it's essentially when very powerful spiritual individuals manage to convince or otherwise force demons or gods or some kind of spiritual supernatural being to serve the wizard, to serve the magician. And Abe no Seimei, believing that these two young boys were in fact shikigami, had a couple of spells to ward off these types of beings. Now, if they were actually human, nothing was going to happen. But Abe no Seimei very, very subtly slipped his hands into the sleeves of his robes, which being ancient Japanese sleeves, they were very, very big, very long and billowy and whatnot. But he slipped his hands into his robes to hide them from the priest, and he begins writing in his sleep. He had a little secret compartment, little secret stowaway, I don't know if it was paper or if he just used his finger, but he drew an insignia, a very powerful insignia, and very quietly spoke a spell under his breath to where this priest couldn't tell. And Abe no Seimei responded to this priest, "Oh, you know what, my good sir? I would be more than happy to accept your offer of discipleship. I would love to teach you everything I possibly know about the way and to answer any of your questions. But unfortunately, you happen to catch me on just a bad day. I'm busy all day long. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do for you today, but please return to your abode for now and come back maybe tomorrow, maybe a couple of days after, on another day, and I'm sure we can do something to help you learn the ways of Onmyo." And this priest, of course, being very proper gentleman, also said, "Thank you, sir. I'm very appreciative." And he headed off. After not a particularly long time, after a fairly short time, this priest suddenly came back. And the whole time he was coming back, he was looking around, left and right. Specifically, he was looking in places like out where they park the carriages, places where a person could possibly be hiding. It was clear he was looking for something. And while occasionally looking over his shoulder, looking to the left, looking to the right, stretching out his neck, trying to look around things, he came back to Abe no Seimei and addressed him again. "My good sir, do you happen to know what happened to the 2 young page boys that were serving me that were just here? I would very much appreciate if you returned them to me." And Abe no Seimei feigned ignorance, obviously, and simply said, "My good priest, what a strange accusation you have leveled at me. Why would I have anything to do with the disappearance of your 2 page boys? I sure did not take them. I have no reason to." But this priest simply sighed a defeated sigh and simply told Abe no Seimei, "My good lord, you are perfectly in the right in this matter. You should not have any reason to take them from me. But we both know what a great sorcerer you are. I apologize for what I have done. Please forgive me." And Abe no Seimei, seeing this priest apologizing for trying to test him. That's the funny thing about this part of the story is the priest doesn't actually say what he's apologizing for. He only asks for forgiveness. But both Abe no Seimei and this priest know why he's apologizing. In modern Japanese even, and even more so in classical Japanese, very often they do not put into words things that are broadly understood by all parties. There's no point of putting it into words. We already know what's going on here. But again, Abe no Seimei, now seeing the penitent priest before him, decides to call off the charade and simply says, okay, I get you. Yes, I must admit I was a little annoyed that somebody would dare come to me to try to test my abilities. Quite frankly, if you had tried this with any other Onmyoji, it's very likely that you would have successfully tricked them. But I am not like other Onmyoji. And with that, Abe no Seimei once again stuck his hands into his robes, drew another insignia and chanted a spell, and sure enough, from outside of the area that they were in, the 2 page boys came running in and took up their positions behind the priest. And being grateful now that Abe no Seimei had returned his shikigami to him, this priest told Seimei, "You know, sir, when I heard that you were in fact very, very skilled in the paths of ancient magic, I was curious about just how skilled you actually were, and I came here wanting to test you. As for my part, I am good enough to control a couple of shikigami, which quite frankly is nothing really worthy of boasting for anybody who is practicing these kinds of arcane arts. But to be able to get rid of somebody else's shikigami, that must take some spectacular power. Your reputation is, in fact, very well deserved. But despite my impetuosity, I am indeed very grateful to you for returning my shikigami, and you have proven yourself to be the most adept Onmyoji that I have ever met. And now I ask you in all sincerity to allow me to learn from your esteemed personage." Your esteemed personage. And with that, this priest submitted his name formally to become a student of Abe no Seimei. Okay, and that is the end of part 2 of this story. Please stick around for part 3 in the future, because we are going to be dealing with one final story about Abe no Seimei. Now I do want to point out, Abe no Seimei being the most famous Onmyoji in all of Japan, these are not the only stories out there about him. These are the only stories that happen to be in this collection of folktales. But Abe no Seimei does show up in multiple places. So if you've got some time, please feel free to look up more. And in fact, if you have some interesting stories or ideas, things that you hear about, please let me know in the comments, and maybe I too will look into them or look into the original sources from whence those come as well. However, that's going to be it for now. Thank you very much for your view/your listen. Ito katejike no koso haberikere. And if you like the story, please like the video as well. If you want to be notified about part 3 when that comes out, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. There are plenty of stories that I will be covering in the future. Trust me, there are lots of them. And with that, I'm going to end the video here. So thank you again, and we'll see you later. Adios.